Welcome to LA Controversial, your backstage pass to the more colourful side of life in the spotlight. He's one of the top-grossing film stars of all time, and in 2006, Forbes magazine named him the world's most powerful celebrity. On paper, Tom Cruise should be the object of envy, but in reality, it's become hard to take him seriously. Throughout the 80s and 90s, he was packing them in with blockbusting dramas and action flicks. Consistently ranked by People magazine among the world's most beautiful people, his bankable charm made him the highest-paid star of all time, and his adoring female fan base looked solid as a rock. Perhaps it was his split with Nicole Kidman in 2001 that started to shake the foundations. While Nicole emerged as the wronged woman, Tom was branded cruel and heartless for abandoning the devoted wife of his adopted children. Not long after, Tom began stepping out with Spanish beauty Penelope Cruz. Despite their dazzling red carpet appearances, gossip magazines hinted that the relationship was merely a stunt to raise their respective profiles, and put paid to incessant rumours about Tom's sexuality. However, most commentators agree that Tom's fall from grace was precipitated by his couch-bouncing antics on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2005. Far from being impressed by his rambunctious display of affection for his new love, Katie Holmes, his formerly adoring public recoiled at the vulgarity of his childish stunt. Having made that gaffe, Tom continued to shoot himself in the foot with repeated nauseating public displays of affection. However, it wasn't until 2 years later that the muckraking began in earnest, with the release of Andrew Morton's unauthorized biography, which aimed its arrows squarely at Tom's famous involvement with Scientology.
There are many revelations in the book. I think it's an overall portrait of his love life, of his professional life, and also, probably most controversially, his relationship with the Church of Scientology. And the revelations in the book concern, you know, his marriage to Nicole Kidman, his marriage to Mimi Rogers, the way that he was brought into Scientology, the way that he's become what I call effectively the number 2 in that organisation. The way this kid from New Jersey, who from a fairly modest background, has become an iconic film star, but also one of the most powerful individuals in Hollywood and now in the wider world.
In the highly publicised book, he accused Tom of effectively brainwashing Katie.
Months before, she was just an ordinary aspiring actress, and here she was a few months later standing up and joining in wild applause with the rest of the Scientologists as they hailed the destruction by bombs and grenades of psychiatry. Interviewers who remember her for this bright, sparky, clear-eyed girl now call her Dead-Eyed Katie.
While Tom refused to comment about the claims made in the book, his lawyer went on the record to say that the biography was full of tired old lies and sick stuff. Wesley Snipes is a 4th Dan black belt in Shotokan karate, and his early training in martial arts probably came in handy while growing up in the Bronx. It was in the 1998 action flick Blade that Wesley really came into his own. As well as starring as the titular vampire hunter, he also served as fight choreographer and producer. Blade raked in $128 million worldwide. But while Wesley's professional life was kicking along nicely, his personal life was falling into disarray. In the mid-90s, while on probation on a California gun conviction, he was charged with reckless driving after engaging in a 120-mile-per-hour chase with the Florida Highway Patrol. Then he had to face claims that he'd fathered a child following a liaison in a Chicago crack house. Wesley refused to take a paternity test, declaring he had never met the woman. His case was strengthened by the revelation that she had made similar claims about President Clinton, Prince, and wait for it, Oprah Winfrey. During 1996 and 97, he'd allegedly attempted to claim a false tax return of nearly $12 million. It was also claimed that between 1999 and 2004, he had failed to pay any tax at all on an income of around $38 million, even after being informed that he was under investigation by the Internal Revenue Service. The investigation was hampered by Wesley's disappearance, leading to claims that he had gone on the run to escape prosecution. In 2005, he was stopped at Johannesburg International Airport, allegedly in the process of trying to use a fake South African passport. Then it was on to Nigeria, where he was given the full red carpet treatment, with the local media speculating that his visit might spark a wave of foreign tourism and investment in the local movie industry.
The president has asked me not only to welcome you to Nigeria, but to welcome you to Abuja and give you special treatment.
But if Wesley had been hoping his problems back in the US were about to be resolved by scoring a Nigerian passport, he was about to be disappointed.
He has asked me to confer on you honorary citizenship of the city of Abuja.
The token offer wasn't going to solve his problems, but he remained gracious.
Thank you very much for your hosting. Thank you very much for your interest and your patience.
In December 2007, the US Internal Revenue Service ordered him home to Florida, where he was indicted and released on a $1 million bond to finish a film. The case finally went to trial in January 2008. 2 months later, the judge recommended he serve the maximum prison sentence of 3 years. He immediately appealed the conviction and remains on bail and free to work, despite becoming involved in yet another lawsuit in which his talent agency claims he owes them $1.5 million in commissions. But it seems that no matter how much trouble he lands himself in, some people are still willing to back Wesley all the way to the White House.
You know, somebody actually asked me, I didn't tell you this, man, the cat actually asked me to run for the presidency. They really did. They came to me and said, yo, Wes, we can back you to run to be a president. I was like, that is the funniest bleep, 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 bleep you could ever imagine. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Can you believe?
No, not really. Like Drew Barrymore before her, Lindsay Lohan had to grow up fast in front of the film cameras. She'd appeared in so many commercials and television shows that by the age of 10, when she was cast in the soap opera Another World, she was already considered a show business veteran. A year later, she dazzled critics and audiences playing twin sisters in the 1998 Disney remake of The Parent Trap. By the time she was 18, her name was shouldering big-budget comedies like Freaky Friday and Mean Girls, which raked in $128 million at the box office and cemented her status as Hollywood's new teen queen. She'd also launched her second career as a singer with the release of the 2004 album Speak. Dealing with so much adulation and pressure at such an early age would have been an uphill struggle for someone with the most secure of family backgrounds. But Lindsay's precarious position made for an impossible balancing act. Although her upbringing on Long Island in New York was financially comfortable, her family life was thrown into turmoil when her father Michael went to prison for securities fraud. As Lindsay's career began to develop, rumors abounded about the show business ambitions of her mother Dina, who ditched her job to become Lindsay's manager. Many believed she was more interested in her daughter's rise to fame and fortune than in her well-being. Proving that he had nothing to offer his daughter in the role model department, Michael went to prison a second time in 2005, convicted of aggravated and licensed driving and attempted assault. The same year, Dina and Michael signed a separation agreement. No wonder Lindsay was quick to latch on to the nurturing influence of Meryl Streep, who played her mother in Robert Altman's last film, A Prairie Home Companion. But by that time, Lindsay had become a regular fixture on the LA nightclub scene and a confirmed member of the trash pack that included Paris Hilton, Nicole Richie and Britney Spears. Despite the barrage of paparazzi snaps depicting Lindsay in various stages of intoxication, she continued to deny she was drinking or taking drugs. The unpredictability of her arrivals on set was put down to an array of ailments, like overheating.
I'm good. You know, you travel so much and you're working and you need to learn to say no and take time to let your body heal itself.
There was little chance of that in 2005, with Lindsay racking up 3 car accidents. By the time filming had begun on her next film, Georgia Rule, in July, Lindsay's absences from set had made her a liability. And Morgan Creek Productions CEO James G. Robinson wrote her a letter, issuing an ultimatum to get her partying ways under control. A few months later, a video of her allegedly snorting cocaine in a toilet was leaked to the press. But with Dina running around playing reporter at the premiere, the chances of Lindsay not blowing it seemed slim. Less than 3 weeks later, she lost control of her car and struck a curb. Police also found cocaine in her car, and she was arrested for driving under the influence. 2 days later, she started a 45-day stay at Promises Rehabilitation Facility in Malibu. Even that didn't do the trick. 3 weeks after her 21st birthday, the Santa Monica police received an emergency phone call from Lindsay's former personal assistant, who claimed Lindsay had chased her into a parking lot.
The officers did a field sobriety test. She did not pass that test. We transported her to the jail, where she submitted to a blood alcohol test, where she blew a 0.12 and 0.13%. She was charged with driving under the influence of alcohol. Also in her pocket was a small amount of cocaine, so she was also charged with possession of a controlled substance.
In typical denial mode, Lindsay insisted the drugs were not hers. But within days, she checked herself into the Cirque Lodge, a drug rehab, alcohol and addiction treatment center in Sundance. And after receiving a 1-day jail sentence and being ordered to complete an 18-month alcohol education program, she finally issued a statement saying, "It's clear to me that my life has become completely unmanageable because I'm addicted to alcohol and drugs." Her one saving grace was that she wasn't blaming her woes on the press.
I don't know if it's about being treated fairly in the press at all. I think you just have to, you know, you put yourself in this position and you put yourself out there. Therefore, people are going to say what they want to say and everyone's going to have an opinion, and that's fine.
Just when it looked like she couldn't give the paparazzi anything more to write about, she started getting cozy with Uber producer Mark Ronson's little sis Samantha. Snaps of the gal pals leaving the supermarket together and cuddling up to each other at the turntables began doing the rounds. And far from running for cover, Lilo seemed happy to flaunt the relationship. Despite their initial shock at Lindsay's foray into lesbianism, the media was soon praising Sam for being the much-needed stabilizing influence in Lindsay's life. Instead of an evil temptress, the English-born DJ was being cast as knight in shining armor to Lilo's damsel in distress, and was credited with curbing Lindsay's famous partying ways. That was until early 2009, when rumors of Lindsay's infidelities with men were blamed for a rift that erupted into a full-blown split in April, when Lindsay was barred from a party for Sam's designer sister Charlotte at Chateau Marmont. Since then, Lindsay's private life complications have continued to eclipse her professional achievements in the media. After allegedly falling down drunk at the 2010 Cannes Film Festival, she was hit with the sobering news that she would have to wear an alcohol monitoring bracelet. She has since reportedly resorted to drinking 8 cans of Red Bull a day and chain smoking to get her kicks. He may not quite rival Lindsay Lohan in the rap sheet stakes, but Transformers star Shia Lebouf is certainly building up quite a tidy tally of run-ins with the law. Back in 2007, after being voted the Star of Tomorrow by the National Association of Theatre Owners, he was apparently under the influence of alcohol when arrested in the early hours of the morning for refusing to leave a Walgreens drugstore. Not surprisingly, for such a minor transgression, the charges were quickly dropped.
Walgreens sent a letter to the prosecutors and the security company as well, indicating that they did not wish to proceed on this. So all I can tell you is we're grateful that it's over and he's on his way back to work. And so am I. Thank you, folks.
However, just 2 months later, he found himself in trouble again for lighting up somewhere he shouldn't have in Burbank, California. The trivial charge was compounded somewhat by Shia's failure to turn up to court, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. However, the charge was dismissed when he coughed up the $500 fine and answered questions on how he'd been coping with the recent media attention.
My life really hasn't changed that much. I got some new tires for my Nissan and got it cleaned yesterday, so that's a big change. My mom's bringing me soup tonight. That'll be a big change. My life's real normal.
That normal life was about to get turned upside down by a dramatic accident that flipped Shia's Ford 150 on its head in an early morning crash in West Hollywood during filming of Transformers 2.
He sustained a hand injury, and he's presently at Cedars-Sinai being treated for those injuries. From what I understand, he needs surgery for his hand injury.
Shia had refused to be breathalyzed at the scene, and for a while there, it looked as though he might be charged with driving under the influence, until the driver of the other vehicle involved in the collision was charged with running a red light. All in all, he had to admit he'd got off pretty lightly.
The fact is that I'm very blessed. I'm just a fortunate human being to have walked away from that, and I'm happy to be back on set. You know, but usually when you come out of something like that, you retreat to somewhere that's a calm, serene place. I go to Holloman Air Force Base and blow up a town. So it's been good. It's good, and everybody's been really supportive, and I work with people I love. So I'm happy to be back on set.
Speaking of working with people he loved, he may have had some explaining to do to Entourage star Adrienne Grenier, when it was later revealed that the female passenger in the car had been his Transformers 2 co-star and Adrienne's girlfriend, Isabel Lucas. Until 2008, Mickey Rourke looked destined to be remembered more for the roles he turned down than for the ones he accepted. Back in the 1980s, his brooding looks and intense performances in 9.5 Weeks, Barfly and Angel Heart drew comparisons with the likes of James Dean and Marlon Brando. Comparisons that only increased as word spread about his dangerous unpredictability on set. But as his star rose, so did his notoriety. He became famous for walking off shoots and failing to turn up for work, and reportedly rejected a stack of lead roles in films like Beverly Hills Cop, Rain Man, 48 Hours, Highlander, and Platoon. He chose instead to climb back into the boxing ring he'd left to take up acting. Over the next few years, a succession of opponents proceeded to mash Mickey's pretty face to a pulp, and a series of reconstructive operations left him almost unrecognizable from the posters of his early movies. By the mid-90s, he was ready to go back to making movies, but few filmmakers were prepared to take the risk on an actor who'd made a name for himself in the industry for all the wrong reasons.
Well, I was out of work for about 13 or 14 years, and it was my fault because I didn't behave properly or like a professional. I wasn't real responsible, and so, you know, I'm the one who was responsible for my first part of my career.
He ended up featuring in straight-to-video releases and a music video for Enrique Iglesias.
You know, I'd get a part here, a day here, 3 days here, and it wasn't the same as carrying a movie and you know, having people trust me again to have that responsibility, because I was out of control and unaccountable, and you know, I wasn't. I'd lost everybody's faith pretty much when I went haywire, I guess.
Approaching 50, broke, and with only his chihuahuas to keep him company, he finally had to take a long, hard look at himself.
You know, I had a lot of lessons to learn the hard way. You know, my grandmother always said, you know, God has a plan for all of us, and I should have went along with his instead of mine because my plan sucked. So, you know, the lessons I had to learn the hard way, and I worked hard to change, and change came hard for me, and so, you know, it didn't happen overnight.
For the son of an amateur bodybuilder, it was time to find some humility.
After several years of not being able to get jobs because I couldn't deal with, you know, some dude with an attitude, you know, judging me or talking down to me as I had these things going on in my head that may not even have been happening. I finally learned how to go in and go, hey, how are you, you know? That was hard because I had a lot of pride.
That learned geniality helped him through supporting roles in films like Sin City, Domino, and Stormbreaker. But it was going to take a lot more than minding his P's and Q's to persuade producers to back him as a leading man. It was going to take the unwavering faith of director Darren Aronofsky.
I just knew he had the abilities, I knew he had the talent, and from the first moment I met him, I knew there was going to be something special. Actually, it's before that. When I saw his work back in the 80s and the early 90s, I knew he was just one of our greatest talents.
The story goes that the wrestler was originally budgeted at more than $20 million, but no one would fund a film with Mickey in the lead. Darren stuck to his guns and eventually found a cashed-up fan of the actor who was willing to put up $6 million. Darren changed the script and made the whole film for the slashed budget. But after sacrificing so much to get his star, he wasn't about to swallow any of Mickey's famous prima donna antics.
It was a combination of going, you know, saying, okay, I'm going to put on 28 pounds of muscle and then I'm going to go visit some really dark, painful places that aren't particularly fun to go to. And I knew Darren would demand that out of me. And the way he handled it, you know, there was a lot of trust and a lot of respect on both ends, and I was able to give him everything. And
used to slugging it out for real in the boxing ring, he previously looked down his nose at the choreographed pantomime of professional wrestling.
I never really had a whole lot of respect for wrestling until I ended up in the hospital, you know, a whole bunch of times the first couple of months, and, you know, just landing the wrong way and, you know, pulling this, breaking this, pinching that, and I went, wow, these guys really get hurt.
In the end, though, the pain was all worthwhile.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it is the best movie I ever made, and it's the hardest movie I ever made, and it's the most I've ever trusted and respected someone enough to give them all of myself.
That trust was rewarded with Golden Globe and BAFTA awards for Best Actor. Now well on his way back to A-list status, Mickey looks ready to swap his chihuahuas for some hot chicks.
You've been dressing nicely, so we want to know what's your fashion style and...
I dress to get laid.